All right, let's dive into this e-commerce and e-business world.
Sounds good.
You wanted to really get a grip on how this whole digital commerce thing works.
Yeah.
You sent us over a bunch of your notes and this really interesting PDF called E-commerce and E-business.
Mm-hmm.
And we dug in and wow, there's a lot here.
There is. Looks like it's a teaching resource from mahavidya.education,
Okay.
covering just a lot of the introductory concepts.
Perfect. So you already know a bit about this online world, but did you know there are actually 7 different types of e-commerce?
Wow.
It's way more than just buying stuff online.
Yeah, it really does go beyond just like the everyday online shopping.
And get this, we're going to follow the journey of a product through the entire trade cycle, but digitally,
Okay.
from before you even find it to the customer support after you buy it.
Hmm.
It's like a behind-the-scenes tour of the internet.
That's a great way to think about it.
And we'll explore how e-business has already transformed industries like banking and travel in ways you might not even realize.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Talk about a digital revolution. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the basics. What exactly is e-commerce? It's more than just clicking add to cart, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. The PDF defines it as trading products or services using computer networks.
Okay.
Obviously, the internet is the biggest one,
Mm-hmm.
but it also includes things like electronic funds transfers happening between banks,
Right.
the complex sort of web of interactions that happen in supply chains, and even just the automated data collection that happens when you browse websites.
So it's really about using technology to make any kind of commercial activity more efficient.
Yeah.
Like a digital superhighway for business.
Precisely. Yeah. And one thing that's highlighted in the PDF is the critical importance of security in all of this.
Right.
We're talking about things like authentication to prove you are who you say you are, encryption to scramble your data and make it unreadable to anyone who shouldn't see it, and a whole bunch of other safeguards.
Right. Because the last thing anyone wants is their virtual wallet getting hijacked.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that we've got the basics down, prepare yourself. There are actually 7 types of e-commerce.
Wow.
But you can't name it all.
I don't think I can.
The PDF breaks it down like this. Business to business, or B2B.
Okay.
Business to consumer, which is the one we're all familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
and consumer to consumer, like when you sell something on eBay.
Right.
Those are the most common ones. But then we get into some more specialized categories, like consumer to business,
Okay.
business to government, and even government to citizen.
Ah.
Whoa, wait a minute. Consumers doing business with businesses.
Uh-huh.
How does that even work?
Well, think about those websites where you can compare loan offers from different banks.
Oh, yeah.
You're the consumer, but you're essentially setting the terms
Okay.
and dictating what you're willing to pay for a financial product. The consumer is in the driver's seat.
That's a pretty big power shift.
Yeah.
And then there's government getting involved in e-commerce. I can barely keep up with my email inbox.
Right.
I can't imagine the government trying to manage online transactions.
Well, it's already happening. Think about how you file your taxes online. Or renew your driver's license. That's all G2C, or government to citizen e-commerce.
Mm.
And then on the flip side, when the government auctions off surplus equipment online, that's G2B, government to business.
So it's like every part of our lives is getting woven into this digital web.
Exactly. Yeah. E-commerce is becoming the fabric of modern commerce.
So we've got all these different players doing business online. But what happens when you actually click buy now?
Okay.
What's the journey of that product from the warehouse to your doorstep?
Well, the PDF outlines what it calls the digital trade cycle.
Okay.
And it breaks it down into 4 key phases: pre-sales, execution, settlement, and after-sales.
Okay. It does sound a bit like a technical manual.
It does, a little bit.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So let's say you're looking for a new pair of noise-canceling headphones.
Okay.
You might start by, browsing different options on Amazon, reading reviews, comparing prices.
Uh-huh.
That's the pre-sales phase.
Okay.
You're identifying potential suppliers and figuring out what they have to offer.
Then I finally find the perfect pair, add them to my cart, and eagerly await their arrival.
Yeah.
That's execution, right?
Yeah.
Choosing my product and getting it shipped.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about e-commerce is that settlement often happens simultaneously. You're authorizing payment sometimes even before those headphones have left the warehouse.
Wow.
That's a big difference from the way things work traditionally.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
The internet is all about speed and instant gratification.
Right.
So why should payments be any different? And once those headphones arrive at my door, what then?
Well, that's where after sales comes in. Anything related to the product after you've purchased it. Returns, customer support, troubleshooting. It's all part of building those lasting relationships with customers, even in a digital environment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together. But we've been talking a lot about e-commerce. Isn't there this bigger concept of e-business too? What's the difference?
You're right. People often use those terms interchangeably, but e-business is actually a broader term.
Okay.
The PDF defines it as using technology to streamline all aspects of a company, not just the buying and selling part.
So it's more than just the storefront.
Yeah.
It's like the entire operation, from the warehouse to the CEO's office, all being managed digitally.
That's a great way to put it.
And that shift to digital has had some pretty dramatic impacts on various industries.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The PDF gives some amazing examples of how e-business has shaken things up. Let's dive into that.
Let's do it. The retail sector is a great example. Remember how we talked about all those different players in e-commerce?
Right.
Well, businesses being able to connect directly with each other.
Right.
Whether it's manufacturers selling directly to retailers
Right.
or even consumers selling to other consumers has completely changed the game.
Yeah.
That traditional idea of shelf life, where a product sits in a warehouse or on a store shelf for months,
Right.
it's practically meaningless now.
It's like everything's on fast forward.
Yeah.
Products move quicker.
Right.
And those connections between businesses are more important than ever before.
Exactly.
Like those furniture stores we mentioned earlier, ordering sofas straight from the manufacturer's website.
Yeah.
No more middlemen, no more waiting.
Exactly. And this increased efficiency can lead to lower prices and more choices for consumers. It's a win-win in many ways.
Okay, so retail's been shaken up. But what about banking?
Okay.
I feel like I haven't stepped foot in an actual bank in ages.
That's a perfect illustration of how e-business has transformed that industry.
Think about it. Online banking has not only become incredibly convenient for customers,
Right.
but it's also forced banks to completely rethink how they operate internally. The PDF site's study showing that e-business has led to significant cost savings for banks,
Really?
but it's also changed how they manage everything from customer data to even their internal communications.
It's like e-business gave them a digital makeover, whether they liked it or not.
Precisely.
And the travel industry is another great example.
Yeah.
The PDF highlights the success of budget airlines like EasyJet, which have thrived because they were built for the online world from day one. It's so easy to book flights, choose seats, even check in all from your phone. No more travel agents, no more paper tickets, just pure digital convenience. And often it means cheaper flights for travelers.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've seen how e-business has revolutionized retail, banking, and travel. What about publishing? News, books, even scientific journals. Everything's online now.
Yeah, I get my news from websites, blogs, social media. Forget waiting for the morning paper.
Right. You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
This shift to digital has had a massive impact on those traditional media outlets. They've had to adapt to a world where information is instant
Right.
and global.
Yeah.
And readers have more choices than ever before. It's a whole new ballgame.
Okay, back to the PDF.
Yeah.
It mentioned this thing called EDI,
Okay.
or electronic data interchange.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of does, right?
What's the deal with that?
So think of EDI as like the grandfather of e-commerce communication.
Okay.
It's basically a standardized way for computers to exchange business documents, invoices, purchase orders, shipping notices, all that stuff that used to be done with mountains of paperwork.
So EDI is the reason we're not drowning in a sea of paper. It's like the digital hero we never knew we needed.
You could say that. And the PDF really emphasizes how much EDI revolutionized business transactions. It made data exchange more accurate, faster, and way cheaper.
Right.
No more manually retyping information. No more delays waiting for documents to arrive by mail.
Makes sense.
It really paved the way for those seamless online transactions that we just we take for granted today.
EDI, the unsung hero of the digital age.
I like it.
Got it.
Yeah.
But let's be real. All this digital stuff relies on a lot of trust. I mean, I can't exactly hold a product in my hand before I buy it online.
Right.
So how does e-commerce build that trust,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to something as sensitive as payment?
That's where things get really interesting. The PDF dives into several different payment systems,
Mm-hmm.
and they all kind of tackle this issue of security in different ways.
Okay.
Think of it like a digital toolbox.
Okay.
Each tool designed for a specific purpose.
Okay, break out the tools. I'm ready to learn how to keep my virtual dollar safe.
All right, so one of the most secure options is the SC protocol,
Okay.
or secure electronic transaction.
Hmm.
Imagine it like a digital Fort Knox for online payments.
Okay.
The goal is to ensure confidentiality,
Yeah.
integrity, and authentication.
Okay.
In other words, your information is locked down tight,
Hmm.
the transaction is legit,
Right.
and everyone involved is who they say they are.
That sounds pretty reassuring.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work?
Oh.
Is there some kind of secret handshake happening between my computer and the online store?
It's more like a carefully choreographed digital dance,
Okay.
but with lots of encryption to keep things secure.
Hmm.
The PDF explains that both the customer and the merchant
Okay.
need digital certificates from a trusted certificate authority.
Hmm.
Think of it like a digital passport that verifies your identity.
So I get my virtual passport.
Yeah,
The online store has theirs, and then we can do business securely.
exactly.
Right.
And during the transaction,
Uh-huh.
your credit card details and other sensitive information are encrypted,
Okay.
often using something called a digital envelope.
Got it.
It's like putting your information in a super secure package that only the intended recipient can open.
Okay. I'm starting to feel a bit better about online shopping already.
Good.
But what if I want that anonymity of paying with cash,
Okay.
but in the digital world? Is there an option for that?
There is. The PDF mentions electronic cash
Okay.
or e-cash.
Okay.
It's designed to be untraceable, just like physical cash.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I could be buying digital catnip for my virtual cat,
You could.
and no one would be the wiser.
Exactly.
Wow.
E-cash relies on some pretty clever cryptography,
Yeah, okay.
including something called blind signatures.
Okay.
Without getting too technical,
Right.
blind signatures allowed the bank to verify that the e-cash is valid without actually seeing the details of the transaction. It's like a digital magic trick.
Very sneaky. But what about something a little more familiar?
Okay.
What if I want to pay online using my good old bank account?
Well, for that, we have the electronic check,
Okay.
which is basically the digital version of that paper check we all know and love,
Right.
but hopefully without the risk of accidentally washing it in your jeans.
Definitely. That's happened to the best of us.
It has.
So,
And what's great about electronic checks
Okay.
is they actually have more security features than their paper counterparts.
oh, really?
They use authentication,
Okay.
digital signatures,
Mhm.
encryption, the whole 9 yards to make sure that your transaction is safe and secure.
So no more worrying about someone forging my signature or stealing my check from the mailbox.
Yeah, actually.
Plus, it's faster and more efficient. Win-win.
Exactly. So we've got the high security SEP protocol, the anonymous Dcash, and the familiar but better electronic check.
Okay.
Are you ready for one more payment tool in our digital toolbox?
Hit me with it.
Okay, this one might surprise you.
Okay.
It's smart cards.
Smart cards.
They're not just for unlocking doors anymore.
Mm.
These little chips can store all sorts of information,
Right.
including payment details.
So it's like carrying a tiny credit card in my wallet.
In a way, yes, but a smart card is actually a miniature computer with its own memory and even a microprocessor.
Wow.
They're used for everything from paying for groceries to accessing secure areas.
Okay.
They're smart and secure.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So how do they work?
Well, the PDF actually breaks down the different types of smart cards.
Okay.
There are contact cards that need to be inserted into a reader,
Right.
and then there are contactless cards that use radio frequencies, like those tap to pay systems you see at checkout counters.
Ah, so that's how those work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in terms of functionality, there are There are memory cards that simply store data, and then there are microprocessor cards that can actually process information.
Hmm.
It's a whole world of technology packed into that tiny chip.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the different types of e-commerce
Yeah.
and the digital trade cycle to the various ways we can pay online.
Right.
My head is spinning, but in a good way, of course.
It's a lot to take in,
It is.
but it just highlights how complex and interconnected this whole e-commerce landscape really is.
Yeah,
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? We haven't even talked about how companies actually market themselves in this digital world.
Right.
That's a whole other beast, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, but that's a deep dive for another day.
Okay, before we get too sidetracked, I want to bring us back to the real-world impact of all this digital disruption.
Right.
How has e-business changed things for consumers and businesses?
That's where the PDF gets really insightful.
Okay.
It dives into specific industries that have been completely reshaped by e-business.
Okay.
And as we've already touched upon,
Mm-hmm.
the retail sector has been on the front lines of this digital revolution.
Right, because online shopping has changed the game for how we buy pretty much everything these days, from clothes to groceries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The PDF talks about how e-business has dramatically shortened product life cycles.
Right.
Things move faster and the connections between businesses are more important than ever.
Like those furniture stores we keep coming back to,
Yeah.
bypassing the middleman and ordering directly from the manufacturers.
Exactly.
It's all about speed and efficiency.
Exactly. And that efficiency can lead to lower prices
Yeah.
and more choices for consumers.
So it sounds like a win-win for shoppers.
It does.
But what about the businesses that have been disrupted by this shift to online? Are there any downsides for consumers?
Well, while e-commerce offers, a lot of benefits, there are some trade-offs to consider.
Yeah.
For example, the PDF talks about the lack of touch and feel
Right.
that can sometimes come with online shopping. Sometimes you just need to try on that sweater or
Right.
hold that gadget in your hand before you commit to buying it.
I get that.
Yeah.
And there's always that little voice in the back of my mind wondering,
Yeah.
is this website secure? Are they going to steal my credit card information?
Yeah, security concerns are definitely a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
And while companies are constantly improving those safeguards,
Right.
it's still a hurdle for both businesses and consumers.
The PDF also brings up something I find super interesting.
Okay.
The societal impacts of e-commerce. It's not just about buying stuff online. It's changing the way we live and work, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's reshaping our world one click at a time.
For example, it's enabling more people to work from home,
Yeah.
which could mean less traffic on the roads,
Right.
more flexible work arrangements, and maybe even a happier planet.
And it's making products and services accessible to people in remote areas who might not have had those opportunities before.
How about breaking down barriers?
Yeah.
But the PDF also raises the question of human connection. Can we lose a bit of that in an increasingly digital world?
It's a valid concern.
Yep.
And definitely something to think about. Technology should enhance our lives, not isolate us. It's all about finding that balance.
Right. And speaking of balance,
Yeah.
the PDF includes a really helpful table comparing traditional commerce to e-commerce. It highlights those key differences that have driven this digital shift.
Right.
Can we walk through some of those?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So traditional commerce relies heavily on face-to-face interaction
Right.
and personal relationships. It's slower, more paper-based, and often limited by geography. You're bound by the physical world.
Whereas e-commerce breaks down those barriers.
Yeah.
Information is exchanged electronically. Transactions can happen instantly.
Right.
And it creates this standardized platform for businesses to connect globally.
Yeah, it does.
It's like trading in that old rotary phone for a smartphone with a million apps, a whole new level of communication.
Precisely.
And that shift has impacted everything from supply chains and logistics to customer service and marketing.
It really has.
So e-commerce and e-business, they're clearly changing the world, but
Yeah.
like any revolution,
Right.
they're both winners and losers.
For sure.
The PDF actually digs into the advantages and disadvantages for organizations and
Mhm.
consumers.
It's important to understand that full impact
Yeah.
of this digital shift.
For companies, e-commerce opens up this global marketplace. It's like
Right.
having a storefront in every country. Plus, it cuts down on paperwork and those snail mail delays we talked about earlier.
Yeah, efficiency is a huge advantage.
Right.
But the PDF also points out that that e-commerce can lower costs for businesses,
Hmm.
speed up delivery times,
Right.
and help them connect with new partners and suppliers all over the world.
And for us shoppers, it's like having a 247 shopping mall at our fingertips.
It is.
No more fighting for parking spots or dealing with crowds.
Right.
Plus, we often get more choices and better prices online.
Yeah, convenience and affordability are major perks for consumers.
Right.
And don't forget about access to information.
Oh, yeah.
You can read product reviews,
Mhm.
compare prices.
And get those detailed product specs, all with a few clicks.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal shopping assistant.
But let's be real, there are some downsides too.
Right.
The PDF doesn't shy away from those.
It's all about weighing the pros and cons.
Right, like that lack of touch and feel you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really need to try on that sweater
Right.
or see how that gadget feels in your hand before you buy it.
For sure.
And as we discussed before, building trust online can be challenging.
Yeah.
It's harder to establish that personal connection when you're not interacting face to face
Right.
with a salesperson or a company representative.
Exactly.
Plus, there's always that nagging thought in the back of my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
is this website really secure? Are they going to steal my credit card info?
Security is a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something that companies are constantly working to improve.
Right.
But it's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah.
The PDF also brought up something really thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
The societal impacts of e-commerce.
Right.
It's not just about buying and selling online.
Yeah.
It's changing how we live and work.
Absolutely. E-commerce and e-business are reshaping our world in ways that we're only beginning to understand.
For example, it's making it easier for people to work from home.
Yeah.
That can mean less traffic on the roads,
Right.
more flexible work schedules,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even a smaller carbon footprint.
And as we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
e-commerce is making products and services accessible to people in remote areas
Right.
who might not have had those opportunities before.
It's pretty amazing to think about all the barriers that e-commerce is breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
But the PDF also raises an important question.
Mm.
As we become more reliant on technology,
Mm-hmm.
are we losing some of that human connection?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Technology should enhance our lives,
Right.
not isolate us. It's all about finding that balance.
Right. It's like anything else. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive
Okay.
into the world of e-commerce and e-business,
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave you with a thought.
Okay. What's that?
The PDF we've been discussing, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Hmm.
This is a dynamic and rapidly evolving field.
Right.
What we've explored today is just a foundation.
Yeah.
It's up to each of us to stay curious, to keep
Right.
learning, and to be active participants in shaping the future of e-business.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like the PDF has given us a map.
Right.
The adventure is ours to create.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Of course.
And remember, stay curious and keep exploring this ever-changing world of e-commerce.
Mhm.